In this video, I'm going to be mounting up these 29-inch Maxxis Rekon tires on my mountain bike. I got these from Jenson USA, who gave me a $100 gift card after my Schwalbe incident. First thing you do is remove the tire from your bike. That should be pretty straightforward, especially if you have quick release, and take the air out of your tire. You can see that I've got Stan rims, and one point of interest is that Schwalbe did identify that their tires are made smaller than older model Stan's rims. So you may also have a problem getting Schwalbe tires on if you have Stan rims. Once the air is out, you need to separate the bead of the tire from the rim. Usually just one hard pull in one direction will pop the bead off the rim. Then use your tire levers to leverage the tire off the rim and carry on all the way around the rim to remove the tire completely. And you can still see that I've got a whole bunch of fresh Stan sealant in there because that was only in the tire for about a week. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Sometimes you could pop it off, but normally with these tubeless setups you might need the tire lever. So when you mount your tire, just take a good look at the rotational direction. Some of them can go either way, some of them have a specific direction, and some of them have a front and rear specific directions. So it is important to take note of the rotational direction of the tire. Once you've got the direction figured out, you're going to mount one side up so that it's properly on the rim. Normally the first side you put on is fairly easy, and the second side is a little bit harder. As mentioned in my last video, the Schwalbes were virtually impossible. However, these Maxxis tires mount up no problem, and it probably took just under an hour to get both tires on the bike complete. Now the second side is a little bit difficult on these Maxxis tires, but it's nothing at all like the Schwalbe tires were. You can see there how much I've got left over. Anyway, a couple more good pulls on the tire and it goes into place. I always use an air compressor to mount tires because I find it's just a lot less painful. And I usually set the pressure to about 100 psi so it gets a good strong push of air going in. Of note though, I do not get the tire all the way up to 100 psi. In fact, I don't get it over 40 psi. I also rub the tire and rim with some soap and water, and that just helps it mount into place. Normally, when the tire seats itself on the rim, it does make a fairly loud noise, and both these Maxxis tires I'm putting on the front and rear mounted up and locked into place very easily. Once your tire is mounted up and before putting in the sealant, I always do a bit of a spin check and make sure that there's no hop in the tire, basically a lower high spot, how it's mounted on the rim. And also there's usually a line on the tires, and I just make sure that that is an even distance from the top of the rim all the way around and on both sides. So if the line is an even distance from the rim on both sides and there's no hop in the tire, then it's probably mounted up fairly well. And now I'm going to take the valve stem out of the Presta valve. I'm using Stan's sealant, and I've got this Stan's no tubes injector. For a 29-inch tire, I use 3 ounces of the Stan's sealant. However, this tube only does 2 ounces at a time, so I'll go back and do a half syringe after I get the first 2 ounces into the tire. Once the sealant is in the tire, I'm going to take the valve stem that I removed and tighten that back into place. They do make special tools for this. However, I usually just use my hand and then tighten it up slightly with a pair of pliers. That's probably frowned upon in some circles. Now, because the tire is mounted onto the rim properly, you can just use a floor pump or even a hand pump to fill it up with air now. And you can see that I brought it up to 40 psi, which is actually higher than I would normally ride the tires. But I generally put them a little higher than normal on the first mounting because I find they lose a little bit of air pressure. And now I'm going to take the tire, give it a spin, and allow it to rotate on a few different axes to ensure that the Stan's sealant gets fully distributed around the tire and rim and fill in any spots that might be leaking. So there's the bike with the Maxxis tires on both the front and the back. These were infinitely easier to mount on these older Stan's rims than the Schwalbe tires were. And after taking them out for a few rides, I think they're just as good. I have no problem with these Maxxis tires. And in fact, I like them just as much as I do my Continentals or the Bontrager tires I've had. I don't really have a good review for the Schwalbe tires because I never really use them. Overall, this job should take an hour as long as your tires and rims are actually working well together and aren't causing too much grief. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.